So as I was mentioning, there's a whole drama over at the Federal Trade Commission led by Lena Khan. There is a commissioner by the name of, what's her name, Krystal Wilson, who has resigned in a bit of a blaze of glory here. She's got a Wall Street Journal op-ed explaining her thinking. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. She says, "Why I'm resigning as an FTC commissioner. Lena Khan's disregard for the rule of law and due process make it impossible for me to continue serving." So we needed to figure out what the heck was going on here, and we brought in the man himself, Matt Stoller, who is author of the big Substack and is an expert on all things antitrust, and I knew would be following this very closely. So great to see you, Matt.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So what is the backstory here?
Drama.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a, I'm going to call it Lena Khan derangement syndrome, right? You remember how like Trump just blew the minds of liberals and like broke their brains, and then, you know, the same thing kind of happens to Republicans. Like, this is what's happening in the antitrust establishment. So you have Lena Khan, and then also more broadly a movement of people coming in, many of the viewers of your show, who are saying like, hey, we should stop monopolies. We should do something about these problems. And the old antitrust establishment, which has been kind of a group of technocrats living in a clubhouse for 40 years saying, this is a very scientific area and ordinary people have nothing to say. They're deeply offended. And Krystal Wilson is kind of like, she's the protege of some of the original people who constrained antitrust in the 80s. And so she's just like mortally offended that Lena Khan would come in and say, no, we're going to enforce the law. And so her kind of going out with a blaze of glory, air quotes, sarcastic air quotes, is her saying sort of to that old establishment Wall Street Journal editorial page and the antitrust defense lawyers and the CEOs who are used to merging and Jim Cramer and all, you know, so on and so forth. It's saying, you know, how dare she, right? And she legit believes it. She's not like, I mean, there's a lot of dishonesty in what she's saying, but like she legit believes that there's like a new era of lawlessness. But that's because she doesn't believe in stopping mergers or the government being able to ban non-compete agreements or various things like that. She just thinks that that's outlandish, even though that is what the laws say. So.
The reason why I think this story is important is it's like obviously a much bigger fight that's happening right now. And one of the reasons I think I want to do our best to try and elevate what Lena Khan is doing is, you know, when you contrast her ability to actually like do her job with so many of the other quote unquote young promisers in the administration, like a guy like Pete Buttigieg, the contrast is just astounding, like the level of competence. So what are the actual fights that she's calling out that Lena Khan is engaging in that will have a major impact on our viewers and really all of us in America?
Yeah, no, I like that you said like Pete Buttigieg. It's like, no, it's Pete Buttigieg.
Well, he's the poster
One
child.
example.
But there are many
examples, but there's also just one.
Yeah.
There's one Pete. Yeah, so there's plenty of, it's actually interesting because the department, it's a great comparison because they're actually, the Department of Transportation has authority that was actually, the statute was ripped out of the FTC statute and given to DOT. And so it's the same authority. DOT is actually a little bit stronger. And you can see one person is using that authority and one person is not. So what has Lena Khan done? All right, so she's challenged a bunch of mergers. So if you look at, I mean, you guys did a segment on Jim Cramer freaking out. The reason that that he's freaking out is because deal makers on Wall Street are very upset at the new tough challenges to mergers. So mergers have dropped by 76% this year. That's not entirely an antitrust thing. That's also because of the funding environment is different, but some of it is antitrust. So she's challenged, you know, Microsoft and Activision. Meta within. We'll see what happens with the Kroger Albertsons, but you know, a lot of deals are just getting abandoned. And you know, the FTC lost the Meta within challenge, but made some important legal advances there. But broadly speaking, the environment for deal makers is completely different. You can't consolidate your way into dominance anymore, or at least it's much harder to do that. Another thing that she's done, and I think this is something that got a lot of attention, is that she said, non-compete agreements, the parts of employment contracts that say you can't leave and work for a rival, she said those are unfair and unenforceable. So she's putting out rules that are not enforced yet, saying the 30 million or 40 million people who are subject to non-compete agreements are no longer subject to those particular provisions. I mean, they're called non-competes, right? So that's like pretty obvious that they're anti-competitive, right?
It's right in the name.
Yeah, that's right there. But there are a lot. I mean, there are a lot of other things. So one of the things that she's started on is a new policy that says that like a gym can't make it. They have to make it as easy to cancel as signing up.
Yes.
Right. Which and there's let me see. There's what's it called? Fortnite, right? Like there were certain like user interface deceptions that were going on there, like dark patterns that make it easy for kids to spend money and actually make allow like essentially sexual in-game purchases, but also like sexual predation of adults and kids.
Right, because they made it far. We actually covered this. I think I did a monologue. They made it super easy for kids to basically get permission. Like you had to opt out of the chat feature, which allows like people who are older to be in with like little kids who are on the platform. And they market it to kids. So there is a lot going on there.
But the FTC came in and said, you have to pay $500 million and stop all of this.
Yeah.
And that's actually changing. The whole industry, the gaming industry is going to look at that and they're going to say, oh, you know, the engineer in the room who's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, versus the marketing guy saying, oh, but our ROI says that we should.
Right.
The engineer now can say, you saw what happened to Epic Games, right? So these are changing industry structures in important ways. And Krystal Wilson voted against all of those, just to be clear.
Interesting.
So I see that there's a Larry Kudlow segment with her, very upset. They're saying that Lena Khan's approach is, quote, modern socialism.
Okay.
And the Chiron on the thing, it says Biden's push for big government socialism. They call her the radical chair of the FTC. I mean, what's your response to all of that?
Well, I mean, the Republican Party is in an interesting spot because they have lived since the early 80s with a coalition of social conservatives and economic conservatives working together to try to get conservative judges and conservative policy. And that coalition is falling apart. And you saw that with Trump coming in, and you see it now, Trump saying protect Social Security and others saying let's cut it. But it also hits in antitrust and market power questions. So there are a lot of young Republicans who are very upset with monopoly power, and they look at Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, and they say these feel like private governments, and we're skeptical of government power. And then you have people like Larry Kudlow and the Wall Street Journal editorial page, and essentially conservative boomer donors that are like, no, we like the preserving our property, and that's like there's a serious and interesting tension. But the criticism of Lena Khan is really coming from the old school corporatist wing of the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment too. I mean, Chair Khan really upset a lot of Democrats when she not like Democrats in Congress, but like the antitrust establishment Democrats, the people in the Obama administration who really didn't challenge mergers, who allowed big tech. A bunch of them were, not all of them, but a bunch of them were really offended. This is kind of like a culture war among people who control all the money and power in America.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Republican side? I mean, how was Trump on these issues? Was there any sign he really thought about or cared about them? How were the people that he put in place? How do you think he would approach it if he was president again? Are there any other potential Republican presidential contenders who would, fall more on the Lena Khan side of these issues? And also, are there genuine allies in Congress who back, banning non-competes and actually enforcing the law with regard to mergers?
Yeah, so those are a lot of questions, and I'm going to forget them.
First, talk about Trump.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good. I already forgot that one. Thank you. So it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the things that happened with Krystal Wilson and her colleague Noah Phillips, who left a couple of months ago, is that they actually got crosswise with the Trump administration. And so that they want to portray what's happening as a partisan fight between the 3 Democrats on the commission and the 2 Republicans, the commission with 5, but actually, that isn't what's going on. So under the Trump administration, Trump filed the first monopolization claim at the DOJ in 20 years. So there was Microsoft in the 90s, and then Trump brought the first Google case. But the FTC brought a case against Facebook in 2020 under Trump. And that was a 3-2 vote. Now, the thing is it wasn't a 3-2, the 3 Rs wanted to bring it, and the 2 Dems did. It was 2 Democrats, the Republican chair named Joe Simons, and the 2 people who voted against it were Noah Phillips and Krystal Wilson. So she actually voted against the Trump chair bringing a Facebook antitrust suit. Another example was Trump is very like protectionist and like want to make things here. Well, one of the things the FTC can do is they can say, if you label something as made in America and it's not, that's fraud. Well, the FTC under, the Democrats at the FTC under Trump were trying to get this put into a rule. And they were actually working with Trump White House officials to do that. The people who opposed it, Noah Phillips and Christine Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Lena Khan's first thing that she did at the FTC is to vote for this rule saying, to propose and vote for this rule saying made in America, fraud is illegal. Who voted against it? Noah Phillips, Christine Wilson. This is on ideological grounds. Like, how dare the government? I think Larry Kudlow would say, "Oh, that's socialism," right? But like, it's obviously it's like that's silly. But the point here is they're offended at the idea that the FTC or that the public sector in general would work to structure markets in a way that doesn't funnel money and power to the top. And so that's what's really going on. And I think what'll happen. So there were a number of questions there, but like, what's going to happen next is Mitch McConnell will nominate, there are 2 open slots. They're eventually going to nominate some Republicans, and they will probably be less libertarian than Christine Wilson and Noah Phillips. And it will sort of change how we do antitrust enforcement. But I forgot the other questions you asked.
Congressional allies with regard to Republicans.
Oh, yeah. So the non-compete thing is really interesting. So you have Todd Young from Indiana, and you have Kevin Cramer from North Dakota. These are 2 senators who came out and said, with some Democratic senators like Chris Murphy, they said, this is good. We don't have non-competes in North Dakota. We don't have non-competes, or I think there are serious problems with non-competes in healthcare in Indiana. So they came out and they said it is a good thing that the FTC is making non-competes unlawful. And, you also saw Jim Jordan on the other side. He runs the House Judiciary Committee. It is likely, he's actually said, I'm going to investigate the FTC for banning non-competes. This is an outrageous power grab and may issue subpoenas and so on and so forth. So you're seeing like this weird split on the right. And like, there's an attempt to portray it as partisan, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm enjoying watching it.
Very interesting.
People pay attention because these people control literally the entire economy. As you said, culture war of people who control all the money and power. I love that. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We got great content for you all over the weekend, and we will see you all next week.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.